All right, joining me is flyweight prospect Chelsea Hackett. Thank you, Chelsea. You're sitting in quarantine. Probably got about a week and a half still left in Sydney.
Yeah, yeah, we've got 9 days to go.
9 days. And how has the first 5 days been?
It's really hard for like Dad and I because we're such active people. I think any other fighter would say the same thing. Like we train all the time and we never sit still for a long period of time. Whereas like you're locked in quarantine, you can't leave the room. It's hard, but we're very lucky the place that we got. We have a full kitchen. We have like an enclosed balcony so we can train. We're very lucky because I have seen some of the quarantines that other athletes are stuck in, and it does not look good. So we're very grateful for where we are.
Definitely, definitely. Now, let's jump right into it. November 17th, Contender
Hmm.
Series. You faced Victoria Leonardo. You
Yeah.
lost via second round TKO. Take
Hmm.
me through that fight and what your overall assessment is of the experience of fighting in Las Vegas.
Yeah, it was massive for me. It was a massive opportunity to show that I am this prospect coming out of Australia, and UFC is my biggest goal. And, I had the platform and I had the show to prove myself, and it's like, we'll start from the beginning, like the lead up to Contender was so long, and really intense. Like I had a 6 month training camp because we had 3 date changes. So originally, back my last fight back in March, which is when I found out about Contender, and I went straight back into training camp because our first date we were given was July 28th. So, straight after my last fight, I was back in, ready to go again in July. They changed it to October. Stayed in camp, obviously, biggest fight of my career. I wanted to be in the best shape I could be. They changed it to November, stay in camp. It was just such a grueling, long camp. But, when I look back on it, it was a great camp. My training went to another level, my skills, everything just felt great. I felt great. My weight was good. So, like we had the date changes, and then amongst that, I had 5 opponent changes. So the first opponent I was booked with, I was ready for her. We were doing everything for that opponent. Then it changed. Same thing. Second opponent, cool. We look at her strengths, what we're going to capitalize on, all of that. It got to the third change, and I just started not giving a shit. Like honestly, like I was just like, I don't care like who I fight. I just want to fight and get this contract. She only lasted a week. Then we changed opponents again, and I had the same mentality. Like I honestly just didn't care who I was fighting because I'd just gone through so many changes. And I had like that trust issue thing because I'd just gone through 4 changes. I'm like, oh, well, this girl's probably going to pull out as well. And so, mentally it got to me and it got very draining. And, we got Victoria Leonardo 3 weeks out from Contender. So I was obviously so glad that she took it and, stuck to her guns and came out to Vegas. And, we had an opponent. Awesome. Sweet. And then all the COVID tests started. We traveled to Vegas. We get tested. We quarantine every second day. Like it was hectic. We had the media day. So it was the most intense experience I've ever gone through. But obviously getting to the fight, I was just so ready to win that contract. Like that's what I thought. I was like, I'm so ready to get this contract. And, about 3 p.m. in the afternoon of fight day, we get taken to the Apex and the drug test started. And I just remember like, okay, they pulled me out, took me to the bathroom, like someone's going to watch you, you got to do your drug test. And instantly just like I was sitting there, someone was watching me on the toilet, like taking this drug test. And I just instantly felt distressed and like uncomfortable and did that. Then it was like get medical checked and full on physical check, do squats, do all of this. This is like right before the fight, like take me back to the room. Then we start getting ready. Then the cameras start coming in. And then it was like the 2 hours leading up to that fight was just in like nothing I've ever been through before. So it was all new. And, you know, then all of a sudden I blink and I'm standing at the door ready to push the door open and fight. And I just remember like pushing the door and it was just silence. Like it was so eerie because there was obviously no crowd. I just made that walk and I like you could hear a pin drop. It was like that. And it just hit me. Like everything that was happening hit me. And I instantly just felt like I physically wasn't there. Like it was almost like an out-of-body experience. It's hard to explain. And I've spoken to a few fighters since then who agreed with me and like they've gone through something like that in one of their fights and in their career at some stage. And it was very intense. Like I just remember staring at her and then I saw like Dana behind her. And it was just real, like it was really real. And even as soon as the fight started, I felt I was off. My timing was off. My brain was trying to tell my body what to do, and it was like 3 beats slower. I just knew that like I wasn't there. My body was not there. It was a really weird feeling. But you know, like I've gonna 100% learn from that, and I know that it was such a new experience for me that you know, that I doubt that feeling will ever happen again. You know, like I just need to get back out there and get on a stage again. And like yeah,
it must have been very eerie when you're used to fighting in front of people screaming and with the support that you have, you know, locally in Australia too. It's just a different animal, you know, like people always like to say it's a different animal. It is a different animal to fly across the world. And most of the people that are fighting there, they're not really flying from anywhere that far away. You know what I mean? Like it's just a very short trip for them.
And, you know, like when I think of all of that now, like, of course, all of it could have 100% impacted how I felt that night. But at the time, I was just like, I'm ready for this. Like, well, what do you mean I'm going to lose? Like, I'm going to win. Like, that was literally my mentality. Like, until I made that walk and then my body was just somewhere else. It was weird. And, you know, I spoke to a few of like my coaches and people that watched the fight live, and they said to me they knew I was off. Like, people that know me well and have seen me fight and train a lot, they knew straight away. Like, I was talking to like a couple of my friends, and they said that like they noticed the timing was off and all of that. So yeah, it was, to people close to me, it was very obvious. And like I did look back on the fight, I did watch the fight again, and I just wasn't me. You know, like it's hard because I know I can fight a lot better than I did. And that was the chance I had to do it, and I didn't do it. But only I can live with that.
You say the pressure, you know what I mean? I feel like that's something that a lot of fighters should talk about, because fans, they don't even think about that. They just think about what you do inside that cage, and they don't see, you know, what goes on before. And I'm glad you're revealing what you went through. But if you look at it, the media, I feel the media side is like you said, it's something totally different from like doing something locally, right? Like with the newspaper or something, right?
Huge. And like, you know, after the fight, Dad said to me, he's like, you know, the week of that fight, all like the media stuff I was doing, like I was on Sports Center over in the States. Like, Dad said to me after the fight, he thought to himself, he didn't tell me, but he thought to himself, like, how is she dealing with this? Like, how is she actually dealing with it? Like, it's huge. Obviously, I'm happy that he didn't, like, ever express any of that, like, before the fight. But, you know, it makes me look back and, like, fighting locally, you know, on the Gold Coast, like, on Eternal to, you know, I'm one of 100 fighters in the world to get a chance at Contender Series. So, and I'm from Australia, like the media and everything was just on another level. And yeah, I honestly, it did not hit me until I made the walk. Like I was fine doing it and I was okay. And then as soon as I walked, I was like, wow, like it's happening.
You also could look at it as you might have needed this
Yeah,
experience to
yeah,
elevate yourself, to a higher level, because now if you do go and do the media and fight across the world, it's nothing to you. You already know what to expect.
exactly. Yeah, and that's 100% how you put it. Like I I spoke on my Instagram about it the other day. Like people are like, how are you staying so positive like after a loss and you got a good mentality and it's like I can own it's already done.
Hmm.
Like I've lost the fight and I lost it in a way that I wish I didn't, like ground and pounded, like that's like the worst. But it's been and done and the only benefit, like the only thing that I can do now is to go forward and improve where I need to improve and get my experience up and all of this stuff. Like, there's so much that I have to look forward to, from this experience. And I'm honestly just so grateful that I even got it. Like, you think about, yes, there's only a handful of people that get chosen for Contender. It's such a big production and everything. So I'm so grateful that I got that opportunity. Especially, I've only been fighting MMA for 18 months. So I think this at this time of my career is definitely needed to take me to where I need to go, like, and I've had endless talks with Dad because obviously we're stuck in quarantine together. And what he said to me was like, if it was going to happen, I'm really happy that it's happened now, and not that you got that win, you got the contract, and then you get into UFC and then it happens in the UFC. So when he said that, it really opened my eyes to, this isn't such a bad thing. This is something that, it needed to happen at this stage for me to get to where I want to go. So I have no doubt that I'm going to obviously deal with those pressures. And when I get to that shot again, I'm going to deal with them just fine because of what I've been through now.
The critics still come out and say it's too much too soon, but really it could have been too much too soon, and now you just move on from it. And like you said,
Yeah,
it's over with. So it's like, what can you do about it? It's okay, I did it,
exactly.
I learned from it, and then now
Yeah.
I gotta move forward and focus on some of the parts of my game that I need to focus on. But I want to go back to that 6 month camp because did you ever redline yourself too much? Did you feel that? Because you said you felt great throughout the camp, but man, you got to the point where you didn't care like who the opponent was, and mentally
Yeah.
that could be draining. Yeah,
Yeah.
mentally
You know,
draining.
yeah. The biggest thing for me, like I obviously put so much into my training and like I train all the time and my work ethic's there that my coaches really had to back me up. They had to just keep pulling me back and just like, we've got another 3 months here and we've got another 2 months here. Like, I definitely feel like, obviously, in that 6 month period, I peaked at certain times. And because the dates kept changing, obviously, I would have peaked when I shouldn't have peaked. So physically, it was too long, you know. But in the sense of the knowledge and the training, I needed it. I needed like that. I've learned so much in the last 6 months, but it was just too long as a fight camp, because I was dieting for 6 months as well. Like, so, like, what was the other thing you said?
Just that, just the mental draining,
The mental, yeah,
yeah, the
yeah,
mental side. I feel like would be the worst because
yeah,
physically you're in your prime. I don't even think you're in your prime. You're 22 years old, so it's like you still got so much time
yeah,
to develop and become stronger, faster, bigger,
yeah,
whatever you need to do to
yeah,
elevate yourself. But yeah, like
yeah,
just the mentally, I feel like this one is really gonna help you on that side of just being ready
definitely,
for the cameras and being ready for
yeah,
any opponent and yeah, not caring. I think that is a that is something that can mess with your
It
head.
was bad. It honestly was bad. Like to have opponent changes literally every week, you
Mm,
know, like from my first opponent to Victoria, it was happening every week.
mm,
So I 100, like I was crying, like I was just like, why is this happening? Like we had visa problems, we had flight problems, like
mm,
just everything was honestly like was going to blow up in our faces.
mm,
I literally thought we weren't even going to get there. So, and that's how I got towards the opponents. I was just like, I don't care. It's number 4. Let's just move on with her. Like, let's go.
mm,
Okay, this is number 5, you know, like, and then I got Victoria, you know, watched a couple of her fights. Yep, cool, sweet, you know, like, I've never been scared or like dodged anyone in my
mm,
career, even in Muay Thai with fights. And like, it just was another opponent to me. So I never overthought it. And then whenever I do media, I was like, oh, like Victoria's had so much more experience. She's fought in Invicta, Bellator.
mm,
And I was just like, yeah, cool. You know,
mm,
like it is what it is. Like we're in Vegas now. I'm going to fight her. Like,
mm,
yeah, it was a lot to deal with during
mm.
that camp.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you move on. You don't have no injuries. You're good, right? Health
No,
wise.
I'm good. I'm
Okay, that's
good.
good to hear. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they they probably gave you a short suspension or whatever.
Um, I'm not sure actually because I wasn't
Mm,
concussed, you
yeah.
know. Like I came out of it and my cheek blew up quite bad, and we actually thought that it could have been fractured,
Mm,
like my orbital bone or something, but it literally went down within a couple of days and it's
mm,
like totally fine. So, I don't think I need a suspension, but in saying that, you know, like I'm stuck in quarantine for 2 weeks. When I go home, it's going to be Christmas. I'm excited to have a break,
mm.
you know, and just to spend time with my family and yeah, and then we'll get back to it.
I think the break is long overdue. You know, 6 months of hardcore training, and you said you were dieting for 6 months. That's not easy
It
either.
was insane, you know, like because I was still in fight camp and we had the date, but it was just kept changing. I couldn't not diet. Like I was on TikTok sick for 6 months, you know, like I was trying to hold my weight so that it
Mm,
wouldn't be hard at the end. And we had a great cut, you know, like
mm.
I had a really great weight cut at the end. But yeah, it was just a long process.
So what's the plan then? You know, you go home, you enjoy the holidays. 2021 is coming up. Looks like
Hmm.
they're slowly opening, up everything. So,
Yeah.
Eternal's having shows with crowds, which is good. Do you want to go
Yes.
back to Eternal, or do you want to maybe fight internationally again, since you
Yeah,
have
you
that
know,
experience?
yeah, for me, I need to fight internationally again.
Mm,
I need to get comfortable in that environment, you know, on that bigger stage and bigger platform. So I just need to get my experience up with that. And I think, you know, there's like no other girls for me to fight within
mm,
Australia. So that's going to be hard, even if I did come back. But you know, if earlier in the year, I don't know what's going to happen next year with COVID and
mm,
the quarantining and stuff. But if early in the year I need to fight on Eternal, just to keep busy, I will. And then from there we'll just look at international promotions. And I don't want anything that's going to block the UFC. Obviously, that's my end goal. So I need to definitely, you know, talk to my management and just see what the right promotion would be, you know,
mm.
again as a feeder into that.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of promotions out there right now that you could go fight for internationally. They would love to have you, and they won't
Yeah.
lock you down because they understand that,
Yeah,
what your
we're
goals are.
looking at Invicta for sure.
Mm,
Invicta would be really good. And then I can go over and do a bit of a camp. You know, after my fight, I had a few coaches from Team Alpha Male and stuff like that wanting to work with me
mm.
in my wrestling. And so, you know, that can obviously, if I get a fight on Invicta, we can go over and prep for a little bit there. So that'd be good as well.
With the wrestling side, did you realize that you really do need some more, wrestling, and have like
I
a lot of
definitely
focus on that?
wrestling. Yeah, yeah, definitely wrestling. You know, like I did more jiu-jitsu this camp than I did wrestling, you know, to be honest. And I definitely need to do more wrestling. And but in saying that, like, what I showed in the fight was not what I train. Do you know what I mean? You know, I had people, everyone was so great after my fight, really respectful and supportive. But, you know, you always have those ones that are like, you know, your ground's terrible and like your wrestling's terrible and like stop training striking and train this. And it's like, dude, do you think all I do is strike in training? You know, like how I train was not, that didn't represent how I train. You know, I do train my jiu-jitsu, I do train my wrestling as evenly as I train my striking, but it just didn't come out. And I think what Dad said to me, you know, like when you're under pressure and you can't think, like I wasn't thinking in the fight, your body just goes into autopilot. And autopilot for me is Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because it's ingrained in me since I was 12 years old. So unfortunately, that's what came out. I was just on autopilot. So that's what's going to come out. Obviously, if I was thinking and I was more present in the fight, my whole training would have come out. I would have shown all my areas. But, yeah, that's just, it is what it is. It's done and I can't do anything about it.
Exactly. Great mentality, you know. I'm glad to hear that. But I knew that about you. We've been talking for the longest, you know, like since you first turned pro. So it's, you know, everybody's gonna lose in MMA. It's just inevitable. And like you said earlier, that's important, is that it happened now. So when you do get into the UFC and you debut, it doesn't happen then, because then the floodgates open for criticism like crazy. Yeah,
you know, like my dad said to me, he's like, I want you to, like, when you get into the UFC, you make a run for it. You know, you just go, because like of what's happened now, you know, like, so when I look at that, the timing is not bad at all.
I'm glad you gave me some time, Chelsea, and of course I'll reach out before your next fight, wherever it is, if it's in the States, if it's in Australia. And yeah, I hope people watch this and understand, like, the not just what happened in the fight, but actually what goes through, you know, a fighter's mind. And I think that's so important to get out there. And this will be online forever.
Why I wanted to do it.
So when you go to the UFC, like you said you're gonna do, people are gonna go back and watch this and say, oh, this was the mindset of her when she got lost on the Contenders. Now she's heading into the UFC. Let's see what she can do.
That's so good. Love it. Thank you so much, John.